Hello, hello, my fellow geeks. You are now listening to a brand new edition of the Indian AvGeek. My name is Vishal Mehra. This week, we continue our chat with Mark Ross Smith from last week. Mark, of course, is the CEO and co founder of Loyalty Status Co., the parent company of StatusMatch.com, where he has transformed airline loyalty programs by driving over $1 billion in for major airlines worldwide. Welcome back, Mark.
It's fantastic to be back again.
How do you market your brand and services to passengers? How do people get to know about Status Match and other products in your portfolio?
The easiest way, just go to statusmatch.com or getstatus.com. We have a list of all the stuff that we do on there for consumer stuff. But the mostly the digging in a little deeper here. There's two ways. One is maybe the airline is promoting the actual offer that is kind of created on their behalf. And then they're promoting it to their own base. They're pushing out through their own communication channels and stuff. So we work with a lot of brands on their strategy around that. Typically, airlines are the playbook for them typically is send out a press release, put something on X, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, whatever, job done. That's about the extent of it. We do tend to do a lot more about it. We have a whole affiliate network. I think pretty much every blogger in the world is on our affiliate network. So sometimes these brands have a bit of marketing budget to put behind some of these things, which works quite well. We facilitate that because you're actually right. Getting the message out there is half the battle. Especially with something like Status Match, where they're actually targeting people that don't fly them. So they're good at their own channels. They're good at communicating to their own members, their own frequent flyers, their own lounges, their own kind of ecosystem, but they're not that great outside of that, funny enough. And so that's where we kind of step in and, help try and spread the love a little bit beyond what they can achieve themselves.
Personally, I got to know about Status Match via a couple of websites. Number one is Ajay's livefromalounge.com, and the other is Ben Schlapping's 1mileatatime.com. Personally, I feel these travel focused blogs or these travel focused websites do a much more effective job of telling the world about your products and reaching out to your actual audience.
Blogs is really it's written in the tone of the writer, right? So AJ or Ben, they're writing these things in their thoughts, right? They're not being paid by the airline to write it, right? It's like they see something cool, they think it's relevant for the audience, they put something online, and here's my 2 cents around it. Here's who it's for, here's how it works. And I think that's what obviously it resonates with their audience, because otherwise the audience wouldn't be reading it. And it comes across as more genuine, right? Whereas an airline that crafts a press release that 30 people had to sign off on before it went out, and then it's been toned down 100 times to be in exactly the right corporate language that it needs to be for the airline. If you or me or anyone else reads it, it's like it feels kind of tone deaf at that point. It's like, well, it's just they're just spamming me with some whatever the latest thing they've got. I think that's why a lot of folks do gravitate towards bloggers and Instagram, TikTok, all this kind of stuff, because it's more genuine. There's a real connection there. It's actually people that they're actually flyers. They're actually interested. You as well. You're into this stuff, and if you started saying, "Hey, is this really cool thing over here? I actually like it. Here's who it could benefit." It's really genuine. It's really authentic, and I think that's at least the way I see it. People are looking for that authenticity in the world today, where brands are just, they seem to not really get it into some to a large degree. And so that's why all these sort of micro influencers have kind of popped up. It's because they're really good at doing that stuff. So a lot of people do find out about it through the aviation bloggers network and stuff like that. And I actually like that people put it in their own words, and it's not all positive, mind you. There's a lot of people that'll say bad things, like, well, don't bother with this airline because they blocked, one time 6 months ago, they lost my bag, whatever. Be wary of that kind of thing. And I kind of like that because I like it because the airline can't control the message, which is actually good because then it's even more authentic, which actually makes it even more powerful. So
Yeah,
it's kind of it's a paradox, right? The negative actually drives more positive stuff.
absolutely. And when you go to a forum like Flyer Talk, for example, you find plenty of helpful folks over there as well who can guide you on your status needs, etc. Telling something as specific as, you don't need that status match with this one, but that airline will be better and would get your benefits across this alliance. Stuff like that. So yeah, authenticity is so very important in this business.
I'll share another authentic story.
Sure.
You don't like this. You might remember about 9 months ago there was if you just Google Eddie had chocolate, there's a story about a 6-year-old girl that she didn't
I'm
get
googling
chocolate
right
on.
now as you speak. Yeah.
I know everyone else is girl. So just said the first thing comes up. It went super viral in India. 6-year-old that didn't get chocolate on her Etihad flight. That 6-year-old daughter is my daughter. And, she get chocolate at a flight, and Etihad sent an email survey out and said, "Hey, Lily, her name is. Hi Lily. Rate your flight." And I said, "Okay, come sit with Daddy. You can rate the flight yourself. You tell me how you think the flight was." And she's like, "It was bad. 1 star out of 10." I'm like, she was in business class. Like, you really can't complain, right? She's spoiled. And I said, "Why is it 1 star?" I didn't get any chocolate on the flight. And this girl's like addicted to chocolate, right? So that was the reason. She got there safely. It was a really good flight. Otherwise, you really can't complain. I would have given it like probably a 9, right? Um, and her friends weren't on the flight either because it was school holidays, and obviously her friends are not on the flight. So she had a low rating, and it got a lot of social media publicity online, and it was like it's a bit of a fun kind of story, right? It had a bit of a dig at Etihad, but then what happened is we had a flight 2 or 3 days later, and on that next flight, Etihad just gave us so much chocolate. It passed out on like a sugar high. Like it was a lot of stuff, chocolates everywhere,
Fantastic.
cakes. Like to be honest, I couldn't carry it all. It was like too much. It was overwhelming, and obviously we take photos, we put it online, and you're like, wow, look. I mean, was not expecting. Look what Etihad's doing, and what happened then is this is an example of being more authentic again. It's an example where something doesn't seem quite right in a quirky way. It was kind of not really wrong, and then the airline more than made up for it in a really positive, really genuine, authentic, in the true nature and spirit of airline of doing something, especially for children, right? I'm a big fan. If airlines can treat children right, I think they can be okay with the adults. So that's just another example of authenticity really shining through. And overall, it was really positive for the airline. It was a very strong outcome.
That is so heartwarming to know. India is now one of the world's biggest aviation markets, Mark. What would be your priority number one as far as the Indian market is concerned?
If I could do anything at all, get people to fly more. Obviously, I from a loyalty perspective, I think that all the right things are starting to align. So they've got these very ambitious international growth strategies in premium as well. Both the big airlines there, and so you got that, but you've also got international foreign carriers putting more capacity into India as well. So the travel is definitely a thing that's kind of happening there. And it's transit passengers. It's not necessarily people going to people transiting through. It's people from India going to the USA or Canada through the Middle East or whatever. Right? There's just more interest in it. Um, there's more interest there versus say China, right? Which is another obviously massive market, but it just hasn't got the same kind of traction I think it is being, especially media attention it has been getting. So I'm pretty
Why is
optimistic
that?
about.
Is that due to the limited space that media gets in China, or is there something else?
No, I think it's just India's had a better ride at this. I
Okay.
think probably obviously there's been visa access to China for a long time for a lot of countries. A lot of good passports that typically wouldn't need to apply for a visa had to up until a year or two ago. So where it's typically been a little bit easier to do stuff through India. This is for foreigners, yeah. Um, and so I think there's been a few factors that kind of played into it. Plus, then Indian aviation sectors been doing a lot of they're just in the media all the time now, which is fantastic. There's all aircraft orders, changes to like a quasi business class. You've got loyalty changes. You got all these things kind of happening, and it's like, wow, there's a lot of stuff happening. So people started paying attention. They started paying attention. It's like, wow, what else can we do there? And it's renewed interest. We work with Etihad as one of our partners. They've launched a StatusMatch offer for India as well. Super interesting. It's one of I think a handful of markets they have a StatusMatch offer in right now. And it's like, well, why are they choosing there? They could have easily chosen the USA, but they didn't. They could have easily chosen, somewhere else. So I'm actually super excited about today and the future of what's going to come, especially in loyalty, because loyalty is obviously my thing. That's kind of where we play. And I just see so much upside potential in carriers that are playing with, people that live there and people that are transiting. There's so much cool stuff there that I see. There's more upside there versus like somewhere like USA, which is more mature. Yeah, which it's kind of like less interesting stuff you can do because it's so high already. So I'm pretty excited.
We were just talking about the two big Indian airlines, right? I want to know from you, how do loyalty programs like Maharaja Club or Indigo's Blue Chip, how can they differentiate themselves in a competitive marketplace?
So from the surface, obviously, one is angling at a more premium sector, and one is angling at like mass transit, right? Makes sense. If we look at the rest of the world right now, there is huge demand for premium products. So this is like a premium economy, business class, or a first class, especially long haul travel. To the point where we've got airlines trying to, they're taking out economy class seats to put in new business class seats. We've got Emirates that are just revamping all their old business class to put their new product in to remain competitive and keep the yields high in premium cabins. If we also keep in mind, there is more cash in the world today than there ever has been in history. So more people have more money today than ever before or have access to it. More people have good jobs today than ever before in history. We're right now, to be fair, this will be even better in the future. We're in the best economic time for
Yeah.
most people, not everyone, but most people around the world today. So there's
Yeah,
just more
minus the
money.
environmental issues, I think this is the best ever time for humanity. And Jeff Bezos also said that some weeks back. Yeah, absolutely.
100%, which means there's just because there's more available cash. You got to spend it on something, right? Like I want to spend it on a business class trip. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, let's do it. And so therefore, the demand for premium stuff is just there, right? It's just coming more and more and more and more. So if we look at the two airlines, one of them is angling more in the premium space. The other one is trying to get in there as well. I think this is a smart strategy. And so I think, that it's kind of like there's Coke and Pepsi, right? You kind of need two brands in a market to make it work really well, right? I think that's kind of what they've nailed here. I think that was probably part of the puzzle around bringing Vistara into it as well. As let's make it so it's kind of a cozy duopoly kind of thing happening here. So I think that'll actually play well for the commercial aviation sector in general. That there's two brands, they've got a slightly different strategy. That there's overlap, but they're doing stuff that's slightly different. It's proven in the rest of the world, so it's going to work.
What are the ways Indian loyalty programs can monetize data, Mark? What learnings you've had over the years as far as that is concerned?
So, like, let's be clear, no one's selling data, right? It's not like they're getting getting yours and mine data and they say,
Yeah,
let's
it's
sell it to
first
this
party
company.
data
No,
that
no
we're
one does
talking
that.
about. Yeah, first party data. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really about renting insights to partners. So, um, let's let's think about banks for a second. Um, transaction data on credit and debit cards. Um, some of that is effectively more or less sold to partners, including back to airlines. So, if you've got airlines can pay for data feeds for like Visa, MasterCard and stuff to get access and go, well, people have this kind of credit card at this bank in this country. The spend on airline spend, most people are spending with Indigo, most people are spending with this airline, Air Asia, Cathay, Air China, like whatever, right? They can sort of see where the flow of funds are going through cards like that. So in this way, it's kind of renting an insight back to someone without saying, Vishal spent, $200 over here kind of thing. No one gets into that kind of detail. Um, I've seen some really interesting uses of data. I'm just going to throw one out that's going to kind of blow your mind a bit. It's a bit out there, but it's super interesting. One airline trying using numerology data. So they obviously know your date of birth. Hey, this is cool, right? Know your date of birth. They can calculate what's called your life path number, which is kind of adding all the numbers together. They get a single digit number for you. Say your number is like 3 or whatever, right? And then they, based on numerology stuff, like people have 3, like what kind of people are these? And then sending communications tailored to like stuff that you're more likely to read and open as an email based on the number. Super interesting stuff.
Wow.
Exactly.
I might have a guess there regarding that airline, but I'm going to keep that to myself. This blows my mind. How is numerology working for their airline, by the way, if you have any idea?
Something that I'd heard they'd started quite some years ago. Um, and when I found out about it, I thought this is amazing because I'm kind of into this stuff as well. I'm fascinated by how companies are using data, and it's not just selling stuff from here to here or using data brokers and stuff like that. It's like how to use it in a really creative way that no one's going to think of, right? And that's why I like these kinds of stories.
What challenges do airlines face in managing their loyalty programs effectively while ensuring profitability, Mark?
Last week we spoke about how some airline loyalty programs can be worth more than the airline group itself. Yeah. Keep that in mind. And then we think about the dynamics within an airline. This is hotels as well, yeah. The ecosystem where loyalty is kind of at the end of the day, they're battling for seats. They're battling for inventory, right? Because everyone wants that long haul business class redemption for 50,000 miles, right? The number of people that ever get that is quite small. And so there's this internal struggle with loyalty versus revenue management, right? So revenue management wants to sell the seat for as much as they can possibly get at any given time to optimize the yield of a flight. Whereas loyalty just wants to give everything away for free, effectively. Well, not really, kind of. The idea is loyalty's made so much more already, and they're going to continue to make a lot more like the lifetime value of this customer. That if you look at the seat that you want to give this customer, this there's a seat. I'm making this up, but there's a seat that's $5,000. The airline can think they can sell it for. Loyalty effectively wants to pay the airline $1,000 for it. The airline's like, "What? Are you crazy? We're losing $4,000 of it." But what it's hard to show is, well, this customer over here has spent 100,000 with us, so that like they're not going to continue to spend that unless you give them a bit of a carrot over here, right? So this is where the whole loyalty reward component comes into it. It's possible to model this. It's a bit tricky because you can't model art sometimes. It's a bit of a belief that it kind of works out.
So, what you're saying is long term thinking within an airline loyalty program is one of the bigger challenges, that revenue management teams are always propagating, or mostly propagating, more short term thinking, or were you trying to say something else?
The challenge is you've got two conflicting views within an airline. You've got revenue management and loyalty. Revenue management, economist type thinking people, right? Very smart people. On the other hand, you've got loyalty focus, which is marketing. It's the fluffy stuff, right? Or they see that these are very different types of people. It's kind of like you go to an art gallery with your girlfriend or your wife, right? And you're bored shitless, right? And she loves this stuff, right? It's like you can kind of deal with it for a while, but at the end of the day, someone's going to win here. So revenue management typically wins in an airline just because it's seen as the money engine behind everything, and it's a lot easier to justify. Let's get new cash in the door today from selling a ticket versus maybe we might get a lot more in 5 years, but we can't see it now. So let's just go for the money now because we've got targets to hit, we've got seats to fill, we've got right. So it's just easy to show in an Excel chart to go after the money now than it is later.
Now that I remember, the first status match that I did on your service was for Citizen M hotels. And that brings me to my next question. What's the customer interest ratio that you see between airlines and hotels as far as your services are concerned?
We see more airlines just because we have more airline partners. So there's a natural sort of flow there. We do work with Citizen M and GHA Discovery hotels as well. Citizen M, really interesting. I don't know if anyone listening has stayed at a Citizen M hotel. They're really, I'd never, before we started working, I'd never stayed at one of their hotels. They're really interesting. The rooms are all exactly the same. So there's no like upgrades or anything. It's the same room. Maybe the view is slightly better. But there is a big overlap. Most people that have airline status have some sort of hotel status or perk somewhere, because you're flying a lot. Most people are staying somewhere, right? And if you've got like a silver or gold status, you've probably done at least 20 flights maybe to get to that level. Most people when they fly, they're staying somewhere, right? So think of it as 20 hotel nights. And so that's how they're sort of getting hotel status. We are seeing it the other way around as well, where there's a couple of airlines. I think it was Royal Jordanian was the first. No, Frontier Airlines was the first one. Spirit Airlines, Royal Jordanian is doing it now, where if you have hotel status, they'll give you airline status as well. So it's like it's the reverse of what you did. That's super interesting because
Yeah, Marriott and Singapore Air did that a couple of years back. They also had an
yeah,
independent program. Yeah.
yeah, Marriott Singapore, Cathay and Marriott did as well. United and Marriott, I believe, have something in place. Hyatt and American Airlines do something. There's a few Accor hotels with Qantas, Air France, Qatar. There's a few of these sort of floating around. Some have status. Some are just like a double dip points earn. Like Emirates and Marriott. You double on your points each flight, which I like actually. I like a lot. I don't know who's paying for it. I don't care, but I get lots of points.
Would you say generally hotels do a better job than airlines at managing their loyalty programs better?
I think airlines do a better job.
Airlines do a better job? Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
not as in the loyalty program, but in terms of actual loyalty, like I think hotels get the hospitality part much better than an airline does. I don't know if you like stayed at a really nice hotel and you've gone back a second or third time. There's times where I've walked in and the doorman opens the door and he goes, "Welcome back, Mr. O. Smith." I'm like, how the heck did you remember me? You must see thousands of people a day, and you remembered me from 6 months ago. I'm a nobody, right? Like I'm not a celebrity. Let's start there. It's not like I'm here all the time. It's not like I'm spending big money. I'm just a normal guy, right? Just I'm coming in a Uber here, a taxi. Like I'm not no limousine or helicopter. Like how are you remembering me and the next guy and the next guy and the next guy? And I found out after that wowed me, I found out that high-end hotels, they will hire people very specifically for roles like that with very good memory. And so it's like, I can tell you airlines don't do that. So, and then people work hotels, they tend to work there for a very long time. You know, you see people like, especially these doorman type folks, they've been there for like 10, 20, 30, like for many years. And it's like, there's this nice feeling about, I know if I go stay at the hotel and whatever, you know, I know that Gary, the doorman, will be there. You know, it's like, it's a kind of, it's a cool feel. It's a cool vibe.
Yeah,
Airlines typically don't get that very well.
that's so very well put together by you, Mark. Airlines have to work much harder to get the same amount of loyalty that hotels get. And being a doorman is such a hard job, but some of them are just fabulous. Tell me, what can hotels do to make their loyalty programs more attractive?
Obviously, work with us. It's a no-brainer.
That's
But
that's point number one. Tell me more.
well, I don't want to turn this into a giant advertisement for what we do, but I mean, I have hotel status with a few hotels. I see things that they could improve on. You know, the last couple of years I've been going pretty big on IHG, actually Rewards One program, and you know, I've got vouchers and F&B vouchers and upgrade credits and stuff that have just expired over that time, because I can't, I find it difficult to use these things. So I think, you know, there's kind of one place to start. Things that expire, whether they're points, certificates, free nights, stuff like that. It kind of hurts a bit as someone that has, I mean, I do have diamond status with them, but you know, if you got status and things are expiring, something doesn't feel right in the program. If I don't stay there for 3 years and something expires, okay, I'm not really loyal anyway. I'm not really engaging with it. So, okay, take it away. But if I'm using it all the time and stuff is still expiring, I feel like it's a kick in the teeth, you know, like I'm still doing the right thing here. I'm still being brand loyal, and I'm kind of losing at the same time. It just, something doesn't quite equate there. So I think they could improve a little bit of that. I'd like to see, I kind of like them linking up with airlines, not necessarily status or perks. I kind of like the dual points earning thing. I didn't get it at first, but now it's to the point where I will actually go stay at a Marriott where I can, because I know I'm going to earn some extra Emirates points, and I'm going to gravitate towards Emirates because I can now earn extra Bonvoy points as well, and they're all just filtering back to my main account anyway, and I kind of see some value there. So I think we're going to see more hotels and airlines team up in strategic ways. It's not going. No, I don't think we're ever going to see a straight up match where if you've got gold with Marriott Bonvoy, then you're going to get gold with Air India. I don't think they'll ever do that, because it's the dynamics are not there. You know, an airline gold status is worth a heck of a lot more than a hotel top tier status. So
That's exactly, in fact, what Marriott and Singapore did. So if you had gold Marriott, they gave you silver Chris Flyer. So exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
that's pretty generous when you consider, if you look at North America, I think everyone and their whole family and all their pets, everyone has gold status with Marriott, from free from a credit card. I have free gold status with Marriott from a credit. I've had it for the last 12 years or something, and I use it where I can. And you know, it's kind of, it's not really earned, you know, because not every country has credit cards for hotels, right? And so it kind
Yeah.
of puts some at a disadvantage in that respect. And at the same time, airlines don't want to devalue their tiers. Like a silver tier KrisFlyer, okay, it doesn't cost the airline, well, it doesn't cost them anything actually to issue that. There is some cost when you fly, but when you fly, you've made the money. And silver has no lounge access. It's very limited perks. It's no priority check-in or anything. So the airline's really not losing out. But if you are starting from scratch, going from zero to try and get that silver with KrisFly, it's 25,000, 25,000, yeah, miles.
25,000.
That's a lot of flying. That's real money you're putting on the line to get there. If they're just shelling it out for free to people that applied for a credit card, it's like, I get it. I get the economics behind it. There's a point where it becomes too generous to too many people. We spoke about if everyone's got status and no one's kind of got it. That would be a circumstance where it's far too easy, versus, like a status match, for example, you've got to have the equivalent somewhere else. So it's a much higher barrier to entry.
The other thing we spoke last week was lifetime status wins, and you were telling me about yours with Qantas. I wonder if that is an unprofitable situation for an airline to be in, unless, of course, you disagree with me there.
Kind of, not really. I mean, the Qantas example is the lifetime gold I've got, which is 14,000 status credits. Put in perspective, that's the equivalent of like Sydney, Melbourne in Australia. Like it's about an hour flight. I had to do about 1,400 sectors to get there. It's not like I'm a nobody. Like that's much more flying than anyone does. So it's a bit of a recognition for your past. It's kind of like an employee. You've been in a company for 20 years, right? Or 30 years. You need to, it's like, I value your loyalty to my firm for the last 2 decades. I'm going to give you something for that, right? There's a little bit of that. And, to the point, very few people ever get lifetime status. This is not a normal thing by any means. And by the time you typically get there, I got there on my 30th birthday. It was that same week that I hit that. People don't get it when they're 30. I'm very much an outlier in that. Most people, my mother, for example, great example. She is 77 this year, and she's almost lifetime gold. She's going for it. Like she's on her way there. She's determined to hit it. You got to think about, she's 77. Like, how many years of flying has she got left in her? I don't know. Hopefully a lot. But most people are not hitting it when they're young. I think, airlines are obviously looking at how to improve their lifetime value proposition. I think Alaska Airlines is a good example of how to do it right, where you provide a benefit for lifetime customers, where they're incentivized to continue flying, continue spending, continue engaging with the broker in some way. They don't need to do what they used to do, but you get a few little extra perks where it's like, well, I'm going to keep pushing some money their way if I can, because I'm going to get these things that I just can't get any other way.
All right. Last question for this week. And I want you to look into your crystal ball and tell me, looking ahead, what innovations, what changes do you foresee in the landscape of airline loyalty programs globally and in India?
If we look at, say, the last 5 years and use that as a measurement to try and predict the next 5, not much is going to change. if I look at it like that, just because the industry is pretty slow at this stuff. However, there are some things that seem to be accelerating. I think the 2020, 2021, when all these airline loyalty valuations came out, I think that's opened the eyes of a few airline management. They're going, well, there actually is something, this loyalty stuff. Because of that, I think the speed of things coming out will accelerate. So it's not necessarily there's going to be some paradigm change where, next year airlines will all be doing some sort of AI blockchain, God knows what, right? That ain't going to happen. What is happening is just the rate of change is increasing. So what that means is the tweaks to the program, the way you earn miles, the way you redeem miles, that will change faster and faster and faster. It used to change like every 5 or 10 years. Now I think it's like every couple of years, maybe. I think obviously we talk about subscription products. I think more of those are going to come on board for loyalty as well. We're going to see more integration with more, we're going to see more of everything faster. And to be fair, I think this is what people want, because airline loyalty, hotel as well, has been pretty stagnant for a fair while. The most interesting thing is, you buy some extra points to top up in your account for an extra however much, right? Whereas I think we're seeing definitely a lot more focus on status. Obviously, our company's revolved around that. We're betting on that. We're definitely seeing it already in the last couple of years. There's more focus around that. As airlines look to, create more revenue streams, and how do we unlock new value that we haven't been able to in the past? And status is the absolute most logical thing they do. I talk about how status is the most powerful tool an airline has, because it influences more purchase behavior than points and miles ever can. Or it influences more than price as well. So in some circumstances. So I think things accelerating around status is definitely the direction in the next sort of year.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much, Mark. Fantastic conversation, really insightful. I learned a lot. And thank you for taking out the time. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
It's been a wonderful journey. So thanks for your time. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Another interaction full of learnings with Mark. Plenty to unpack. Next week is the 30th episode of the Indian AvGeek, and you can bet it will be something different and fascinating. For now, this is it, folks. Rate the show on your app, give us feedback, and feel free to press that follow button. I would appreciate it very much. Mark is at Dr. Doot on X, that is at DRDOOT, and I am Vishal One Mehra. With that, I wish you well and happy flying, my friends.